We had a request from some customers regarding storage, so I'm making a video with suggested storage placement. And so this is the Offside slide out drawer, and I've packed it with typical stuff that we take camping. And when you're packing, it's pretty obvious that stuff on the bottom harder to get to, so you put your stuff that you rarely use there, and the stuff that you're using every day, you have that more accessible. So what I've done here, for example, I've put my dual hot water system, shower rose and gas lead here, with the dual hot water system just here. Depending on how far you're travelling, what kind of road you want to travel on, I would be putting some non-slip matting around that. Or you like to pack things that you can use for two different purposes, so I'll be putting towels, beach towels or something like that around there, just to protect it. That's it, packed away nicely there. So I'll put that to the side, and then if you're putting the awning up, something you're always going to be using is your pegs and ropes, and you usually keep your mallet or your hammer in there as well. And if you're setting up for any length of time, you're probably going to be putting some annex matting down, so that's your annex matting bag there, and you'll be definitely using a table, so I've put a fold-up table there. So they're the things that you definitely will be using. And then you have your long-term storage, stuff that you don't necessarily use every day. So I put these in tubs. Good thing about tubs is you can store on top of them. So just get this one out. Oh boy. Right. So I actually don't have anything in these. If I were going camping, I would be putting, well, the pantry's pretty big, so I was going to say extra pantry items, so probably not, but if you're going long term somewhere, maybe some extra pantry items, camp ovens, that kind of thing, campfire stuff, stuff that you're not going to be using necessarily all the time, that goes into there. So yeah, so I was just suddenly became very strong. These tubs make this area much more usable and much more voluminous. We call this the Condiments storage area, and for obvious reasons. It's right next to the stove, so it's right next to the food prep area, so that's a good place for your condiments. And, you know, you can also keep, if you find a little chopping board like that which fits on that bench there, you've got that ready to use there. You can keep not just condiments, maybe a little coffee percolator like that, you can keep that there. I actually keep a little USB speaker there, so you know you've got your you've got your USB ready to go to play. I like their early stuff. Anyway, you can just go to your heart's content. Good spot for it there because it's out of the way. It's not going to get wet and damaged. And then what have you? You know, tea. What we've got here: salt, pepper, olive oil, bit of balsamic vinegar. You know, stuff that you use while you're cooking, and tea towels, washing up liquid, that kind of thing. And when you're packing for camping, you know, you're always searching for a little space, because space is always at a premium. If you have something like this, this doesn't come with the camper, but if you had something like that, you could store it in there, for example. But unfortunately, you know, that's metal on metal, that's going to scuff. So again, you got your tea towels. You can put your tea towel down there. You can put that in there. You can put your sponges and maybe your dishwashing liquid inside there, and then you can, you know, you got your squeegee over the top, so you're not damaging anything when it's rattling around, sliding around. When you go to set it up, you know, it's an easy setup because it's just where it needs to be. So rather than putting it away somewhere over there, You just keep it where you're going to be using it. So where do people store their clothes? Well, obviously you want to access your clothes from the inside of the camper because you're getting changed in here usually. So you want to store your clothes inside the camper, so you're not having to go outside, bring stuff in and get changed there. So the logical space is in the understep drawer here, which I'm sitting on, and also in this area here, which is above the pole locker. This area here is accessible from either the passenger side or driver's side on the outside, and it's 170 litres in there. It's bigger than it looks, and I'd say you'd probably have to give it a bit of thought about how you pack it. The part on the edge here is not going to be as accessible from inside as the part in the middle, obviously, so yeah, you'd put your swimmers, your towel or whatever on the outside, so you can access that from the outside when you want to go swimming, and then you have all your other clothes on the inside here. The understep storage is 60 odd litres, so yeah, it's bigger than it looks because it's quite deep. And like I said before, this is the slide out section which you can access from the outside, and that's the inside section. So yeah, you'd be keeping stuff that you always take camping and don't use at home in there, and then your dirty clothes and what have you you'd probably put there. Usually at the end of your camping trip you want to be able to access everything that you want to remove from your camper without having to open up the camper. So you'd want to get all your dirty clothes in a section that's accessible from the outside. So sometimes packing the camper for going home and packing the camper for going to your holiday is going to be a bit different. One feature of the Modcon campers that is often overlooked is the design of the base that holds the bed, or the lid of the camper. If you see here, the mattress sits inside the lid of the camper, so when the lid folds over, the bottom of the lid is sitting on the sides of the camper. The mattress is sitting up inside that, so it doesn't protrude down and take up storage space inside the camper body itself. So therefore you have more storage inside the main camper, and it packs up a lot easier, therefore you can leave awnings on and that kind of thing. So that simple design feature has a lot of carry-on effects. So not only can you store things on top of the kids' bed, such as a solar panel or a table, that kind of thing, pillows, doonas, that kind of thing, because you have up to the edge of the camper to be able to store stuff. You can store things underneath, and here again we have tubs, 2 tubs. If you need extra storage space, it's great to keep them in tubs, waterproof, dustproof. You can take them outside, you can store them wherever you like. These tubs are the 55 litre version, $7 well spent. If you are going to store things on top of the bed slash seat, obviously you've got to put something down on top of the vinyl, protect that first. The most obvious thing would be for the kids' doona to go down first, and then you put your table or your solar panel or whatever on top of that. That way you're not going to damage the vinyl. Also, by the way, the backrests for the seats, they just store here on top of the step if you're using the floor section for tubs. Hello. So here we are in the kitchen again. This is the pantry. I'm not going to go too much in detail about this pantry because you'll be able to watch this video that we've already done on the kitchen, and that will give you a good run through on it. But needless to say, there's a couple of things to be aware of. The pantry's in 3 parts. We have the deep part, shallow part, and the slide out part, which is up front. Now, just a couple of things to note. You can keep, cereal boxes or anything like in its original packaging, if you like, in the pantry. But at night, if you've got possums and stuff around, you're going to have to pack anything away that you've got here and close up the lid, like so. Otherwise you're going to have gnawed on chips the next morning. So that's alright for an overnighter, but if you're staying any length of time, your campsite tends to spread and you get stuff permanently fixed in various spots. You know, you might have a chopping board here and a few cups, you know, a coffee pot or whatever, and it's a pain in the neck having to pack it away. A better alternative is to pack all your cereals, your chips, your snacks or whatever into sealed containers like this. You can get a lot of them in there and you don't have to worry about animals getting in there at night. You can just leave the pantry open, it's good to go. On front of the camper, behind the stone guard here, we have two gas bottle holders, they're 4 kilograms. We've got two 20-litre jerry can holders, and in between them we've got a checker plate aluminium storage box. So just one thing to note about aluminium, when you're storing things in it, they are prone to getting condensation inside. So if you're storing anything that's vulnerable to water, make sure when you're storing it long term, have the lid cracked open, or actually remove the item so it doesn't get mouldy and it doesn't get affected by condensation. To open it up, it's quite simple. You just release the strap, and the lid's on gas struts. You store whatever you like in there, really. Now, what I've got in here is the hot water system and its sort of paraphernalia, the hoses, the shower hose, the gas hose, the water hose. I've got the pegs and ropes bag. I've got a this one's quite heavy. It's my toolkit. So I've got a toolkit in there. I've got a cordless drill for dropping down the stabiliser legs instead of using the provided winder. So you can use a winder, but a cordless drill with a same size, 19mm socket on the end, that'll do the same job a lot quicker. What else we got in here? Got the hooker, that fitted in there. The big thing here I've got is the I've got a porta potty in here. So it's a good spot for a porta potty. This is still in its box, so the actual porta potty itself would be smaller. But yeah, that fits in there. You could keep a Jenny in there if you wanted to, but particularly long term, you'd have to manage the condensation if you're going to keep a Jenny in there long term, because that could wreck it. So you have to be careful with that. And then also we've got the hot water system bracket that you put on the tailgate to put your hot water system up. That can store in there as well. The toolbox is 186 litres, which means you can get a lot of stuff in there. If you've set up camp and thought, oh no, I've forgotten to get something out that I need, you don't have to panic too much, because you can get access to small stuff as it is, as the camper is, or you can just push the camper up a bit like that, lock it off, and then access the toolbox as per normal. Make sure no one's sleeping in the bed when you do it, but apart from that, it's an easy process. Finally, we've got nooks and crannies, little bits of storage here and there that add up if you think carefully about how you're going to use them. And one of them is next to the batteries here. There's quite a bit of space there that I would be putting electrical gear in, but you just got to be careful not to store it too high that you can't get access to your switches and your water level gauge and your voltometer, so you can see what's going on. So for example, these are the bits and pieces that come with the Victron 15 amp battery charger. That's for charging your battery in your car. So it's a good spot to keep your Victron, because you're going to be plugging them in there, so why not keep that there. Also, so things have a theme, and you can find things more easily because of that. You've got your LED lighting here, so you can keep your LED lighting in there. That's like a strip light with a Velcro back. I mean, you could keep that in the kitchen side in the condiments drawer as well, but if that's full, there's always a spot there. And then something that you don't use very often is wheel chocks. But if you've got to change a wheel, you've got a flat tyre, you can put your wheel chocks in there. They're just going to be there for when you need them, out of the way. Got 2 of them in there. So Nooks and Crannies Part 2. Inside the camper there are a couple of little cabinets that you can use underneath the seats. So you take the cushions away and you have lift up lid, and inside you've got quite a substantial area there. You put things like, your cheese grater, that's a good spot for it. Or if you're not carrying cheese graters this trip, things like you put clothes in there because it is inside, and it's bigger than it looks. Or shoes or things like that. If you wanted to separate your shoes from your clothes, which is probably a good idea, you can keep your shoes in there. You just have to keep in mind that that area is not accessible when the camper's closed, so don't leave your car keys in there or your wallet. Under the other seat there's a similar area underneath there. Half of it's taken up with your condiments area, so that's gone, and you have a water pump in there. But there is a section next to the water pump that is, again, bigger than it looks, and good for stuff that you don't use very often.